Welcome to Earl Asks Anything. And in this special edition of Earl Asks Anything, I'm going to be speaking to John J.R. Robinson. John J.R. Robinson's discography reads like a long novel. He's played on thousands of songs, hundreds of records, and movie soundtracks and TV shows and everything. He's a staple in the LA recording session scene since the late 1970s. Some of the bands he's played with is Rufus and Chaka Khan, Quincy Jones. He played on We Are the World. He's played with Lionel Richie. He's played with country artists like Clint Black and Wynonna Judd. And he's just an amazing drummer, a really nice guy. I had the opportunity to take a couple lessons with him. This is one of them. And as part of the lesson, we did a little interview segment on some of the people he's worked with, some of the drum equipment he's used over the years. These are things that I always love hearing about. And we'll talk maybe a little bit about the lesson too. We'll see where it goes as I make these cuts. I haven't made the cuts yet on this Skype interview lesson, but I hope you all enjoy it. It's sharing a little bit of my world. John's been an influence of mine. I've done some covers that he's been the drummer on with Russ Freeman, Eric Clapton, Stevie Winwood. He's played on some of the huge hit songs out there. The Brothers Johnson. So he's a great player. Anyhow, I'm going to let him talk, do less me talking. I'll ask some questions, direct it. I hope you enjoy it. Hope you have fun watching it. And
I'll talk to you a little bit about your life a little bit and about some of the players you've worked with, because you've got some discography. And I've seen a lot of your interviews, everything that's out there on YouTube I've seen, and I've read all the magazine articles and stuff. And a lot of times in these interviews, they never really dig into certain areas. They let you talk about your favorite stuff.
Right.
So I thought it might be interesting to learn some things. I'm going to name a bass player, and you could tell me your favorite track and what you enjoyed about how you played together on it.
All right. Go ahead.
Pick your top ones, the ones at the top of your list, the guys you played with. So, and I'm sure there's younger guys that you play with now that are great too. But
I'm mostly still playing with the older guys, which is good,
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Louis Johnson. He's not around anymore, but you did a lot of work with Louis.
God bless him, man. He was ridiculous. And, the interesting thing about Louis was he was self-taught.
Mm-hmm.
He had just the ears of God. He's can hear something once and immediately nail it. He was just an incredible bass player with his fingers, and a lot of people didn't realize that. I mean, he's on the track I keep forgetting with Jeff from Michael McDonald. That's Louis Johnson. And the nice thing about when I started working with Louis, one of the greatest memories was we had cut. Let me think which song it was. Maybe, I don't know, Get on the Floor or Working Day and Night or something. And the drag is when you're recording and you don't hear the click track,
right?
But you know that the click track's really loud.
Right.
So we've buried collectively, he and I buried the click track from the beginning of the song to the end. And we stopped and we're sweating and we both look at each other. He goes, and I always did. And I go, what happened? Just happened? And he goes, yeah. I go, man, we buried the click. I go, I didn't hear the click except for the first 8 clicks. He goes, Nor did I. So we scuffled into the control room and listened. And Quincy goes, man, that was perfect.
That's great.
So there was something to be said about our time collectively.
Yeah.
There was another little story about Louis. Is he, we were doing all this shit. I mean, we did Karen Carpenter's last record together, which was very...
on that. I was going to ask you about that. You did, because Liberty DeVito played on part of it and you played on it.
That's right. And it was I think Phil Ramone produced it. And it was interesting to substitute me and Louis into Karen. And, we're trying to get Karen to...
Get funky.
Just dance, just figure out how we pulled that 2 and 4 back. And we had her up and dancing, and she was having so much fun and stuff. And then, unfortunately, she passed away.
Yeah.
So that was a good memory of Lewis. One other memory is in 1980, I got a call from Stanley Clarke, and Stanley Clarke goes, "I want you to come down and do this record. It's called Rocks, Pebbles, and Sand," eventually is what it was.
Right.
And there was a song on there called We Supply. And I get into the session. I go, it's Lewis Johnson is there. I go, Lewis, what are you doing there? And Stanley called me, you and I together, to play on this song. I go, oh, this is going to be really cool. So it was like, we supply. Oh, some funky stuff. I don't know it. And, something like that. And then between the two of them with this, between Stanley and then Lewis doing this other thing, it was just,
that's
it was ridiculous.
I have to look that one up.
Yeah, We Supply, it's called. It's really, really, really funky. So that's Lewis.
All right. Well, Abe Laboriel, Sr.
Yeah, because Junior can play too, so that's a whole nother story. Let's see. The first time I played with Abe Sr., oh boy, it could have been. It was at the same time of 2 number 1 records. And 1 number 1 record was this. 3. Just once.
Yeah.
Can't we figure out what we've been doing wrong? And that was with my boss, David Foster.
Yeah.
That was Abe. Me and David cut that. And then the other one was for Diana Ross. Like, ooh, ooh, missing you. Abe, was a transformed flamenco guitar player. So his bass technique reflects that. And I think that's something really, really special. He's just so musical. He's so gifted, and he's so friggin' nice.
Did you know him in Berkeley? Did he go to Berkeley for a while?
He did. He was there 4 years before me.
Okay.
So different generation.
Cool.
I think Harvey and Abe went together to school together.
I
think Harvey's a little.
He went
I think in '67. I think.
Wow. I
could be wrong on that date, but that was a long time ago. So I didn't get there until '73.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, anyhow, I had a little bit of dropout in the middle of the Abe story, but you don't have to go back through it. I could see you had a passion playing with him. You guys on All Night Long among them.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, so.
Oh, there was another one. All right, so you did another Abe story. Yeah, we played together so much. We played at the Baked Potato together, and then Lionel called and wanted Abe and I cut a lot of Lionel's records.
Mm-hmm.
And but All Night Long was special, and we cut that as a trio. And Lionel was on a Yamaha CS80, and it was just me and Abe, and we cut that at golly, it was either Ocean Way A or Studio 55. I can't remember which one right now, but it was just us three. There was none of that stuff, none of that front intro thing, nothing. So basically what I'm doing is like, now this, overdubbed.
I had a feeling you did do it. I took a pass at that tune.
I didn't have a third hand.
Yeah.
And that was cool,
Yeah, no, and overdubbing was big back then. They were doing a lot of that, weren't they?
I did a lot of it, and I have no problems with it. It's just like, you're building a better house with more tools.
Yeah. Definitely.
So we did All Night Long, and at the same exact time, Diane Warren writes a song called "The Rhythm of the Night." The rhythm of the night, da, 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 which was
right.
written by Diane Warren, but it was for Earl DeBarge.
Yeah.
And the demo was not like that. So when Abe and I came and interpreted the demo, we put that calypso all night long thing on it, and those two songs happened within a couple of months of each other.
Yeah. I
Well,
used to play that wedding band. My wife used to sing that song.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I remember we used to do both those songs in the
Cool.
band back in the 80s, back in that day.
That'd be a good medley.
It was. They kind of went into each other, and you're definitely right. All right, here's a guy. He's known for other things. I love this guy, Lee Sklar.
Ah.
He plays with everybody. He's all over the place.
Mr. Facebook.
He is now Mr. YouTube. I don't know if you know that, but he got kicked off Facebook about the beginning of COVID, and he was so pissed he went on YouTube. And I happened to be following him for about 2 years. So all of a sudden he shows up, because I never watched his rants on Facebook, to be honest. He went from like 10,000 subscribers. He's got over 100,000 subscribers.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, shit, he could run for office.
Yeah, he's great. He's such a personal guy.
He's been in this house a few times. And he's a good guy. And I'm waiting for his coffee table book to come out. Where we have this.
I know.
I've got my sons in the book. He's doing it.
Yeah.
And but Lee, every time we play together, it's magic. And so you can see where he's obviously of the older sect, and him and Russ are very magical together. He loved playing with Jeff, and I don't know if he played with Steve a lot. I don't think so. But I've done we get calls still to this day to do special stuff. Lee Sklar and I are in two famous movies as villains, performing villains. So players. So one is, and this is per the scene. One is Michael Jordan's Warner Brothers movie, Space Jam.
Wow.
And we are the drummer bass player when they turn into monsters. And this metal rock tune comes up. That's Leland and I.
That's wild.
So that's one. And then the other story is, Trey, South Park.
Oh,
The movie when Saddam Hussein and Saddam and the devil are in bed together. And he's singing that ballad.
Yeah.
That's Lee and I.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
That's wild. I'm a big South Park fan. My son turned me on to South Park years ago. Yeah.
Hey, royalties.
I was going through your credits. I saw Mr. Hankey's Christmas special.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
And I was like, what the heck? That's crazy.
Was that the name of that?
Yeah, they had it as Mr. Hankey's Christmas special.
That was it. That still thing that dribbles in a few dollars now and then, so that's all good.
I bet it does. Yeah. Back in that day.
So Leland, I'm very glad that his band is getting released. And but all right, Lee Sklar, beautiful. You've named unbelievable cats. So keep going.
All right, Nathan East.
Nathan East, or as we would call him, the world's #1 bass player. He moved to town somewhere around 80, 81. I think with Ronnie Laws, and he was from San Diego, and he graduated from San Diego State, and incredibly accomplished musician, can read his ass off. He's got great time. He's got great touch and feel, can play upright, and understands production value. And so he used to say, when we first started working together with Jeff Lorber around, 83 maybe, he used to say, man, I just at night, I just sit in my bed in San Diego and listen to you and Lewis, and sit and listen to you and Lewis, and that's all I would listen to, and then pretty soon Nathan's in the chair, Yeah. So Nathan's been in the David Foster All-Star Band from the beginning. We started that band, I think, around 95, and that band's got Michael Thompson, Dean Parks, David, myself, and Nate, and then sometimes Greg Fillinganes. But It's just effortless to play. We actually just did a session a week and a half ago with Greg, with Post Malone, and Leanne Rimes. I believe she was added. We redid John Lennon's Imagine. So look for that. So that'll be coming out. We actually veered out with the masks, and it was a little scary, And I probably do need a friggin' haircut and shave, but we'll get there. So yeah, Nate's Nate, man. I mean, he can do no wrong. He could run for president.
Neil Stubenhaus.
Neil and I are very close, and I met Neil in 1973 at Berkeley, but it was at some private house, and we were like, everybody wanted to jam. We want to play Tones for Jones Bones, and and hip tunes, and I met Neil, and we weren't in any classes together, but we started to hit it off, get to know each other, and as Berkeley progressed, he had his own band and I had my own band, and then poof, all of us gravitated and ended up in Los Angeles in 1978. It was really weird, and none of us talked to each other about it. It just happened. So he introduced me to the television and film industry in the early 80s, and that's when I started doing The Simpsons. And there's an episode where I'm like playing John Bonham, and because Bob Zamiti, the great percussionist, was a drummer, but he was left-handed, so I think he had it beat in a good way, because I couldn't come down and play his drums, or I'd sound really bad, and so rarely, and then I'd bring drums in and stuff. So I would play percussion on a lot of those dates, and started getting into that in film. And Neil helped facilitate that. And I just spoke to him yesterday. We just did a Paul Anka song. Ironically, Mr. Paul Anka is still writing viable music at age 87 years old. He's on fire. So just did that. Neil, I'll be honest. I think Neil, of all the bass players, has the best time of all of them. Wow. And his time it's just the way a drummer wants to hear a bass player play a downbeat. And
that's cool.
Years ago, when I was called by Lenny Waronker, who was president of Warner Brothers, he goes, "John, you got a band, right?" I go, yeah. He goes, "Well, John Fogerty needs a band." I go, "Oh." So I called up John, and so who am I going to hire? I had Neil on bass.
Yeah.
It was cool. So I love Neil.
That's cool. So how long did you play with Fogerty? You were with him like in the 80s, wasn't it?
It wasn't. It was a year or less that seemed like 10 years.
I heard he's very hard on drummers. That's what some guys have said. But
well, maybe it's because when I left, he became hard on drummers. And, because then he hired Kenny.
Yeah.
And then I did a couple of live performances with him, like for the Tonight Show and stuff, in between that time. And he actually called me 2 months ago in the beginning of this virus and wanted me to come to his house and record. And I go, "I'm not going to do it." And he just lives a couple of miles away. I go, "I'm not going to do it. I'm not coming out there." He goes, "You really think it's that bad?" I go, "Oh, yeah, it is." So
I'm sure Kenny will go, right?
Yeah, Kenny will go. Not. So, hey, and by the way, you play drums, man. Listen to that last Creedence record. He kind of
played drums on the last Creedence record.
Some of it. He kicked Doug off and started doing his own thing. So, and he played on center field.
Did he play on? I was going to ask you about center field. So you didn't play on that one.
I didn't. I joined at center field, but the record was already released. It was good. They were good times,
Yeah, that's cool. Let me ask you a couple of questions about some drums now. Those are all the only other bass player I had on here was the guy from Rufus, Bobby Watson.
Bobby Watson.
Yeah.
My dear brother, and he and I have a thing, as you well can hear.
Yeah.
With you speaks for itself. So, and all those Rufus records. So I love Bobby dearly and don't get to see him enough. And I don't think he lives too far away, but he's been over here, golly, 25 times. So, we've recorded with him a lot. So Bobby's great.
Does he still do? Does he do
Oh,
sessions?
and
Because I
produce.
know he was doing sessions while with Rufus too, right? For a
He's
while.
doing sessions. He actually moved to Japan for 10 years
Oh wow.
and then came back, and he had all 4 of his daughters over there. So he came back, and yeah, he's an amazing player. He's a bit understated, whereas, when I play with Stanley Clark, it gets to be a little more pronounced.
Right.
Which I am doing today as we speak, by the way.
Well, that's going to be awesome. I'm
That's
sure.
That's all I can tell you.
All right. Let me ask you a little bit about your time. I was going to go into your drums, but let's skip that. Go into some country. You went country in the 90s somewhere. Were you doing
Shit, I went country. I went country.
Yeah,
no.
You did. Clint Black, Faith Hill, Martina McBride. I mean, I was going down the list. Were you doing those in Nashville or were you doing them here in LA?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Both, and one in the Bahamas, or 2 in the Bahamas. 1. Oh, I did Winona in the Bahamas.
Wow.
One of those records. And then Clint was interesting because he and I became very good friends. I used to work with his Lisa Hartman before they were married in the old days. Everybody loved Lisa. She was so hot, and she had a record deal. So we used to record for her way before her and Clint got hooked up. And then when they got hooked up, I ended up recording for them. But Clint liked the West Coast thing. He was tired. I mean, he, first of all, is not from Nashville. He's a Texas boy, outside of Fort Worth somewhere. So he's more of a twanger, a guitar player, kind of a blues guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done, maybe 6 of his records. And every time he'd call me up and he goes, JR, it's Clint. I go, hey, how you doing? He goes, great. He goes, I want to do a record that's different. And who do you recommend? And I mean, I was thinking of Lee Sklar. I go, use Lee Sklar. Perfect. It's like, okay. And he goes, what about percussion? I go, let's get Lenny Castro. All right. So we do these weird, I'd bring Dean Parks in and, guys that can kind of sway both ways,
Right. Yeah.
One of those records were like Nothing from the Taillights. Listen to that record. Beautiful. Yeah. A beautiful record. So we cut that here. Like Toby Keith stuff, I cut some in LA, and I cut some in the Bahamas, and I cut some in Nashville.
So when you worked in Nashville, were there any?
It was Miami. Sorry.
Oh, Miami, close to
home. It was
Miami.
When I worked in Nashville?
When you went to Nashville, were there any bass players you worked with in Nashville that you enjoyed working with? Because that's a whole different crew of guys there in Nashville.
My favorite bass player is Joe Chimay, and Joe Chimay was not a Nashville guy. He used to live out here, and he was a singer bass player on The Wall. Singer. He sang backgrounds on The Wall with Pink Floyd. And when I joined Rufus in 1978, I wasn't working outside of the band, and he was the first one to call me and hire me for his record. So that was the first record I did outside of Rufus's numbers. And then Joe, when the earthquake came in 94, his wife, it was just this huge exodus from LA to Nashville. Huge. Thousands of people.
Is that when left LA?
Huh?
Is that when Paul Lime left?
They left. Paul was a very dear friend of Joe, and they're still friends. And no offense, I love Paul dearly, but get out. There's a little less competition there. But but they got to Nashville and did well. Yeah. So Joe's great. I think Michael Rhodes.
Yeah.
What other bass players are there? I know I'm missing somebody, but.
Well, on your DVD, you played with a band. You played a Tower Power tune on your DVD, and it was smoking section.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. That's
Gary Lunn, the bass player.
Gary Lunn, that's right. And I just did a session in Orlando with Gary for this event live. It was like a live show thing. Gary plays a lot like Neil. They're very similar bass players. So I forgot about Gary.
Well, see,
Right.
I did a record in '87 in Nashville, and I got replaced by a drummer in Nashville, the guy who plays with Tim Aker, John Hammond.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, he replaced me on the last 4 songs of the album. I got on 6, he got on the last 4, you know. And Gary Lunn came in that day and played with him. So I met Gary at that point in time, and I've been kind of following their careers for a long time. And the guitar player who plays in Tim Aker's in the Smoking Section, one of them, Mark Baldwin.
I know Mark extremely well.
Yeah, Mark produced the album, so I've played with Mark a few times. He even
Mark's he was a Berkeley guy, you know.
I know he was.
Yeah.
He's a badass guitar player.
He did,
Really.
you know, when I produced that avant-garde rock record 2 years ago in Nashville. What's the name of it? Paradox, Null Paradox. I don't know if you followed this. I was the producer of that and did it, and I hired Mark to be the outside guitar player for that. You know, because he could rock, and he brought his 335, and that's all I cared about.
He's got a lot of different stuff. He's got a lot of different music that he's done.
Yeah.
And he was a jazz head back in the 80s, but he was playing in Nashville doing a lot of the CCM stuff. And you know,
right.
But I keep in touch with him. My wife and his wife kind of keep in touch through Facebook and places. They've been for years. So
he's such a nice cat, man. I mean,
really is a nice guy. Really nice guy. Right.
All the time, you know.
So let me ask you about some drums, and I want some honest. You don't have to talk. I know you're a endorser, DW endorser. I know you're a Peisty guy, but I want to know about some of the drums you played back in the day. So let's talk about a couple of those hit records of yours that you've been on, a bazillion of them. When you were doing Lionel, were you playing Yamaha at that point most of the time?
Yes.
Because
It was all Yamaha, actually. I switched to Yamaha. You know, and I was a loyal guy. You know, when I first joined Rufus, I was still playing my Gretsch drums I bought from EU Wurlitzers in 1975. Excuse me. And those
were they walnut finish?
That's the Michael Jackson set.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of that kit. And you had some concert toms and some double.
I bought concert toms later, and then I bought a 24 later that didn't really match. But you know, that kit's all sitting somewhere. I'm not sure where. It's at one of those rock museum things somewhere. But it's just a normal Gretsch kit that I had to pack the lugs with cotton because they go, you can hear it, you know.
I know. I have my Gretsch kits from when I was in college, 79 walnut. I bought it in New York City at Professional Percussion. And the first thing I did when I got home was I took the lugs off and I packed them with cotton because I read somewhere that was the thing.
Was that the one where you climb up the steps, the old joint?
Yeah, it was the last one when Jane Ippolino was the owner. So
yeah.
The last was on 46th Street. Matter of fact, I think I got the kit before they went under and then before they shut down.
Where was that place before then?
I don't know. I started going there in college. You know, I went to Jersey City State College and I was studying music. So I started going there, and then the next place I went to was Modern Drum Shop, Joe Casillas' shop for years, and Drummer's World. Those were the two places.
What year was that?
79, 80, 81, 82.
Okay, because I bought my Gretsch Bebop set off the shelf at Pro Percussion in 1973.
Yeah.
And I drove down from Boston to New York with my friend Artie. His dad lived in New York, and it was $325. And I go, and I still have it, and I'll never get rid of that kit. But I thought I walked up some crackly stairs.
You probably did, because this
was on the left.
Yeah, but I think that might have been 45th Street. I think they were on 45th, and they moved to 46th Street.
I think you're right.
You know.
So, all right. So getting back to your question, so I became a Slingerland artist in 78 through 80. 81.
Who helped you get that endorsement?
Danny Serafin.
I had a feeling.
And Danny Serafin and Larry Lincoln and who's the other guy? Phil Halsey.
Right.
From Slingerland. And it was interesting, you know. And they if you look at these old pictures, you know, I had a really kind of a cool setup, and you know, the drums were okay. We had them out in the rain, during concerts, and they warped.
I know they. The funny thing was when I went to New York City to buy that kit, I wanted to buy a Danny kit because I was a
Right.
Danny Surfing guy, and I said I want a double-headed kit and I want a Slingerland kit. And the guy named Tim Herman was the guy running the drum shop at that point. He was one of the guys in the shop, and he says, "You don't want those drums. You want Gretsch. You don't want the hardware Gretsch, but you want Gretsch."
Right.
And he told me the Gretsch kit, and he put Pearl hardware on them.
Right.
So they custom put the Pearl hardware on them. He said, "You don't want Slingerland drums," because that's when they were starting to tank. So you got on the last boat.
I was at the last, but we got rid of all that stuff. The person, I know where that snare drum is, and it's in mint condition, but they want like a shitload of dough for this snare drum because of my name, I guess. But anyway, so then, we're recording, and I'm recording, the Rufus records, getting into the Michael record, Off the Wall, and then Quincy's starting to think about touring, and I'm hearing whispers of Japan, and I'm going, well, shit, Steve Gadd's a Yamaha guy.
Yeah.
Why can't I be a Yamaha guy? So I sent a request letter to Yamaha Nippon Gaki of Japan, and they said yes. So when we got there, I had my own escort, and they took me into this huge room. And I mean, it was huge, and it was just filled with drums and boxes. Because I go, well, what do I want? I go, well, I want a 24, I want a 22, and I want a 20.
Right.
And I should have gotten an 18. And the array of toms that would plug in and out, and they were in that dry sunburst finish.
I know, it's a beautiful kit.
Which I think Rick Murata had a kit like that. And that got me into recording with that, and it really recorded well.
Yeah.
And I used that up until then. They started wanting to make me new stuff. So we tried new stuff. So throughout the whole 80s was an acceleration of, they were still all recording customs. And I was always a Japanese birch guy. American birch is different, North American birch, but Japanese birch was an endangered wood, made it just somehow it sounded better. And, when Yamaha in late 80s started making those maple customs, Dave Weckel used them, very thin sounding drums. I couldn't hang. And so they made me all stuff in birch. Right. With all the new lugs and stuff. So I was a loyal guy. Now, of course, I would use Valley drums or Ludwig Black Beauties or different kind of snare drums, depending on the song. So that was that.
That's great. So you weren't Jeff. He was toting that Gretsch kit around town all the time. He was a Pearl endorser.
I used Gretsch all the way through 83.
Yeah.
Probably. And then that's when all the Yamahas got sent over. And then,
the best drums, the early 80s Yamahas were the best.
They were really good.
Before they put that Yes mount on it, and then it just like.
And I can tell you where that kit is. That kit is sitting in a museum at Portsmouth Percussion in New Hampshire right now.
Oh, the Drum Center of Portsmouth.
Yep. Shane's.
As a matter of fact, I see it on their videos all the time. It's got the Chiefs logo on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that. Okay.
Yeah. Shane goes, he'll never sell it because I think Shane wants me to get it back from him one day. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, it's good. It's good that I know where it is.
Yeah, that's great. So all during that time you were playing Zildjian. You were So let me talk about the size.
Well, in the studio, I was using some Paiste. I could never get Paiste.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me either. But
in Iowa, where I grew up, we couldn't find Paiste cymbals.
Did you buy all your vintage drums from that guy in Iowa, Ned?
Yeah, Ned Ingerbergman.
Yeah,
most of them.
Yeah, I remember he used to have like a paper or something that you could kind of look at what he had in stock, and
he was the first guy to have all this stuff.
Yeah, he was. I remember.
He was kind of a intense dude, But I've sold a lot of those drums now.
Yeah.
I just, I go, I don't need them. I mean, I've got a 15 Black Beauty, but some asshole chromed over that I bought from him for nothing, and nobody would pay me anything for it. But if you put it up, it sounds unbelievable. So it's just kind of it's like a 23 or 4, 15 by 4.
You have been into the 15-inch drum. That was your signature drum at Pearl, and you had one at
No,
Yamaha.
Pearl was 4 by 14.
Was it a 4x14?
Maple. Yeah, and I've got one sitting right over here. And I have actually still serial 0001 of that.
Uh-huh.
Somebody makes me like $100,000 offer, I might sell it. No, I'm kidding. But
on 50 grand.
The first Yamaha snare was 5 by 15.
Yeah, I remember that with the penny nails in it or something.
No, that was the second snare.
That's the second one. Okay.
The second snare, Hoggy came up with an idea of putting the 2-inch by 2 millimeter nails into the bearing edge.
Yeah, I remember that.
So we did that for snares 2 and 3.
And that was a 15 by.
No, the second one was 14 by 5.5.
Okay.
Wrap white marine pearl. The last one was a sunburst 14 by 6.5 with a 65-degree bearing edge, 35. And I went through a whole bunch of weird things. That snare drum, by the way, I feel still to this day is Yamaha's best snare drum ever, is that last sunburst.
Wow.
So if you see that, you see those things, I'd pick them up.
You don't. Vintage drums were easier to get in the 90s, early 2000s. Now it's out of control. I mean, I got a set of Pearl fiberglass concert toms. I'm missing a 6 and a 12. And I'm probably never going to sell them. I took the wrap off. The wrap was coming off anyhow. So
right.
But I love playing them once in a while. And guys have it's obscene what they're selling one tom for, like $300 for one of those.
Yeah, they know that people are desperate.
Yeah, I guess concert toms have made a resurgence somewhere, in the last few years.
You know what? If this band forms like I think it's going to for next year, I may have a set of concert toms implemented in this drum set.
That'll be cool.
Or 2.
Mm-hmm. 8-10 kind of scenario.
Yeah, I don't know, man. This is a very simple setup, but I have a distinct feeling that I know what I want to do, and I think John Good will do it. So these are good. These will be good.
I heard he didn't like making concert toms. Is that true?
He does.
Yeah.
He thinks it's bastardization. It's like Anthony Jackson slapping with his thumb.
Right.
Oh,
bad, very bad. Yeah. That's funny.
Hey, you want to see something?
Sure.
Talk about Peisty. Look at those hi-hats.
The new 602s?
I just got these today.
Ooh.
And there's another set sitting over there, and this is prototype 2. And this set is better than the original first prototype.
Are they 15s or 14s?
15s.
Are they like a thin heavy, or are they?
They're heavy like a mofo.
Wow. So you said you played Peisty back in the 80s sometimes. Were you playing the Sound Edge, the 2000?
I did. I switched over. I only had a set of 14s.
Uh-huh.
There we go. And I loved them, and they were really bright and a little brittle.
Yeah.
But I could hear the chick.
Yeah.
And then I still have the first Peisty ride I ever had is a 20-inch black label flat ride, kind of like an ECM thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's just ridiculous. And I used to, Joe Picaro and I would do sessions together, and Joe was still with Peisty, and I wasn't yet. And I brought it in, and I go, Joe, you got to look at this. And he put it up, and he started playing, and he goes, oh my God. He goes, this is the shit. I bought that in 71, I think, or 72.
Wow.
But that was interesting. So, how things come around like that.
Yeah. So when you were playing Zildjian back in that day, What was your favorite ride at that point? You were an A guy.
Oof. And ironically, I just got my high school cymbals back, and I looked in there, and they were like 22 heavy pings, is what they were. And I was always pissed off at Zildjian because they could never make a 24-inch ride cymbal. And I don't even know if they can make a 24-inch ride today. I just don't know.
They've got them in the catalog now. They do.
They do?
Yeah, they started making them about 7-10 years ago, I guess.
Yeah, does it sound like this, though?
No.
I don't think so.
Feisty guy now. I actually have a set of Zildjians. I got a set of Sabians, but I got a set of Pisces that I play on most of my. I find they're the best to record with. There's just something about them. They just sit in the mix right, you know.
Well, and there's higher frequencies coming off these cymbals.
Yeah.
Than Zildjians or the other ones. So no, and nothing against Zildjian. They made some unbelievable stuff. I used to think their A thin crashes were pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I used to like the quick beat hi-hats, and they discontinued them because they couldn't make them or sell them anymore. And I go, that sucks. I don't have it here. Their original Jake Hanna 22-inch swish.
Yeah.
Made in the 60s. Undeniably unique. But
did you have a swish knocker, or did you just had a swish with like 6 or 8 rivets in it?
I have both, but before the swish knocker, they were called swishes with 20 rivets. So and they're incredibly thin. So it sounds like a ride cymbal with them.
Yeah.
So, and my JR ride second one at Peisty is similar to that, but it's a 24, and it's a little thicker. So it's a little bit more for today's music.
Yeah, I have a 70s version of a swish knocker.
Oh,
I
cool.
picked it for like $65 in a music store in town, and it had 4 rivets in. I put all the rivets back in it, and it sounds cool. It's nasty. I won't clean it or anything.
No, don't clean it.
Got that sound, that kind of that big band thing you can do, that Erskine thing,
Yeah, well, who got it from Jake Hanna?
He got it from Jake Hanna.
Yeah, Ed Soph, Jake Hanna.
Yeah, he was the guy. Yeah, and Mel Lewis, of course.
And Mel Lewis too. Yeah, I mean, listen to, fuck yeah, Mel always had that. Jake always had that. With the check out those Super Sax records. Mm-hmm. There was like 4 or 5 of them. And they're just amazing big band records.
That's wild. Cool. Yeah, that's one of your signature cymbals on Peisty too. Is that China, right? Is that a or is that a?
It's a 2002.
Okay.
Really hard to make that bend, by the way.
Yeah.
I watched it happen in real time. I'm going, oh my God, no wonder you guys don't want to do this.
Yeah, their 2002 China. I have an 18. It's a little bit flatter, It doesn't have that hard bend up,
Right, and mine has to curve slightly up.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you got the square bell, or is it kind of a rounded bell on yours?
No, rounded.
Yeah, because the 2002s always had that square bell. That was their thing, which is useless for a bell, but I love
those and turned them upside down.
Yeah, that's what you do with them. That's what. Yeah.
I don't like to do that. I like to play them the regular way because I can open it up more.
Play it more like a ride, yeah.
Exactly.
You still get that funky thing off it if you want. I guess there's no rules today. You watch guys today now just playing, all these kids. They play with broken cymbals and they stack more broken cymbals. Even though Gadd was doing that years ago, and it's nothing new. I mean, but Gadd was doing it because he didn't have any cymbals for some reason.
Right.
I couldn't figure out why he was out on the road with Grover Washington Jr. playing all broken cymbals, but there's a great video of him playing with Ralph McDonald out there.
Oh yeah.
They're all broken, every one of them. He's got them stacked on top of one another. That's Steve Gadd.
And your playing probably gets used to that sound when you hit it too.
Yeah.
There was a drummer when I got to Berkeley named Bobby Deach. His son's Adam Deach, and who became successful. Yeah. Bobby Deach used to play with Phil Wilson's Thursday Night Dues band. There's a little teeny 18-inch kit and 2 fucked up broken cymbals. Zildjian, and the ride cymbal was so cracked, it looked like a planet had blown up. And he kept just riding it. And I'm looking at my cousin Mark, and I'm going, man, this is some of the hippest shit I've ever seen. And it was like, dude got used to the sound,
Yeah. Well, that's the funny thing. Cymbals are an acquired taste. It's what you like. It's not always the new thing. It sometimes is that old thing that's got that crack in it. So.
Yeah, not for me.
Yeah.
I'm using. These are signature fulls, big, and this is a 19. But look, I can do this with my hand.
And that's beautiful signatures. Do you
It's
find
ridiculous.
you bend them at all? Do you have any problems bending signature?
No, because the full is thicker.
Okay. Do you have any of the traditionals?
Some.
Because I've had a few traditionals, and I just bend those things. I don't know. I play into them, and then they kind of bend and dent. And
You're probably
I've seen
playing
a lot of guys do that. But the 2002s, no problem. I have a set of giant beats and it's a big beat ride, and I've got some old roots, and
Hey, by the way, you see this one?
Yeah.
That's a 26.
That's a giant beat? Yeah. Those are beautiful cymbals, man. I love them.
They were the ones who made the 24-inch ride when I was touring Europe with Zildjian on a Zildjian clinic tour. And I'm at some drum store somewhere. I'm in fucking, I don't know where, Copenhagen. Or guy goes, you come downstairs with me. And he shows me a 24 version of that. And I play it. I go, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
That's the bottom cymbal.
Why can't Zildjian make this?
Yeah.
And they could never make it. They'd send me an orchestral cymbal.
Wow, that's crazy.
Which is just unplayable. So,
yeah.
Well, you've taken a lot of. It's like I'm doing an interview. So
I'm going to probably take this and turn it into an interview. I'll be honest. I'll have to.
Well, let me double check it before you release it. So
okay, I'll do that for you.
Do you want any drum lessons, or you got a few minutes?
The next in your series on the PDF, I'll keep working on it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I have enjoyed working with that. It's been a lot of fun, and I appreciate your candor on a lot of this stuff. I will definitely not put anything out that you would be embarrassed about. That's for sure.
Well, good. I mean, honestly, I want you to do the syncopation thing, which is, but add the triplets, which I will demonstrate for the end of this lesson. Etc.
Right. Do you play with a French kind of style grip? Because I noticed you play when you were playing more under, especially with your left hand. I noticed
on the snare drum. I'm still playing palms down, but
you turn it and get on your hat.
I go back and forth because if I'm going to go back over here to the hi-hat or some sort of a pattern, or if I'm going to rotate from bead to shank to, a tight rim shot or a full rim shot or no rim shot at all. So it depends.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, beautiful. You got any last questions?
No. Do you have any questions for me about your tracks?
Oh, and the only what I noticed was I listened to each track separately, and that's where then I saw the phasing. And of course, when I'm going to play on the songs that I've made famous, I don't need the drum track.
Of course not.
So, but the perk could be useful, but I don't know how you separate that.
Sometimes it separates itself. The funny thing about these tracks, it's not an art form. It's an algorithm. And it takes it the way it takes it. It depends on who mixed the track and what, because I get percussion bleeds into some of those tracks, and sometimes it gets obliterated. It's gone.
Right.
So it depends on the way this program takes it apart. But for a guy that doesn't have access to any of the multi-tracks, This is a great tool for a guy playing YouTube covers, and the people that watch me play these things, they love it. And
well, what I'm going to do, and I haven't done it because I've been actually really busy. I've just finished 12 tunes for Doc Kupka from Tower, 3 songs for Dave Cause. I just did this Christian project, and then now we're working on the new band. But I'm going to take these and load them into Pro Tools first, and look at it, and see if there's a way that I can change that, and then reprint certain things, because I'm going to play drums over the drum part anyway. And maybe I can salvage some of the drum thing by thinning it out, and that sort of thing. Because the most important thing is the vocal, just find those vocals.
If you want me to try one tune, I can try a different, there is some adjustments you can make. I took it down the middle.
Oh.
Adjustments, but it keeps some of the drums in sometimes as you're making these adjustments. So it's an ear thing. You gotta be listening to it and what I like. So I took it down the middle because it's just easy. It was the easier way to go, and it was down the middle. But I can mess with one. So give me one of the songs you don't like.
Which one was it? All Night Long or Higher Love?
I don't know which one it was. You know which one it was.
Well, they all have that same thing.
They all have that same thing, but which one was it really obvious to you? Because one of the things that happens is when you play over it, it comes
All Night
back.
Long.
Yeah. Okay. The vocal bothered you on that one the most. All right. I'll play with it. I'll send you something.
Okay. All right.
See if this is a little bit better.
I greatly appreciate it.
You know what I mean? The toughest thing was the click track, to be honest, because the clicks are not, even though you guys were playing with a click, I can't put you at one tempo and from the top.
Right. Yeah, that stuff's veering.
It does move a little bit, but everything moves a little bit.
That's I can deal with that, dude. I can actually, as long as I hear 4, I don't even need the click, so I'm good with that. So anyway, listen, I got to get off here because I got to get back on with Rob. So, Earl, thank you very much. And let's talk in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, sure. Definitely.
All right. Let me know when that comes out.
No, I will send you. I'll send it to you. Say, watch it. Let me know what you think.
All right. Great. Keep practicing.
I will. Thanks.
Later. Bye.
Okay, this is the John Robinson exercise 1. I'm mostly playing this for John. I'm going to put this at the end of my my interview with John Robinson. So this is the exercise I've been working on. I may even put it over top as a JPEG so you can see what I'm doing. So we're going to play with 100 beats per minute on the metronome. And I'm going to see if I can do it over the snare. I may have to pull the pad in. So let's see what I do. 1, 2, ready, go. No, that wasn't it. 1. We're in some kind of a 5 pattern. That explains every problem we've got going on. I couldn't figure out why that kept moving. Now I know why. 1, 2, 3, 4. think I made that one. That was the first time. One more time to see if I can do it twice.